can I make the closing process go as smoothly as possible? In this video, we're going to talk about 5 tips that'll help your closing go great. All right, hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Andrew Sztanyo with Keller Realty and Team Sztanyo.com, where we are helping you build a bridge to your future real estate dreams. And in this very room, in just a few minutes, I'm going to be closing on a house with one of my buyer clients. And this week has been a little bit crazy. There have been, a lot of moving parts because we were trying to close earlier to help out the sellers. I won't get into all the details. But when you do that and you're trying to get everything together, you've already picked out the house you want to live in, you're all excited about that, and then you kind of get bogged down into the lending and the getting all the paperwork together and the closing process. So how can you make that go smooth? How can you make it go better, or at least as good as possible in this day and age when you've got all these things to do and you've also just got life to live and you've got your kids to feed, right? And you've got to go to work and all the other problems that life gives you every single day. Well, here we're going to give you 5 tips right now if you're buying or selling a house in Cincinnati, Ohio, to help make that closing process go smooth. So let's get into it. All right, tip number 1 is keep an eye on all the little details. Now, I know when you are getting a lot of paperwork thrown your way and you're gathering forms from different places and bank statements and insurance and all these different things, it's hard to sit down and take the time to read all the fine print. And I'm not necessarily saying read all the fine print, but I am saying you've got to keep a close eye on the details, because just one of these small details, if you mix it up, can potentially delay the closing for days or even weeks. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the details. You want to make sure all your documents are lined up and ready to go. And just a few tips on the specific details you might want to keep an extra eye on. Make sure the names are spelled correctly. Make sure all the addresses are correct. And also make sure the amount of the loan is what you need to get the house done. Okay, second tip is to make a timeline for the repairs and then do a final walkthrough if you're buying the house. So another one of these things that can bog down the closing process is after you've got a signed contract, you generally are going to have that inspection period. It tends to be around 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, maybe shorter. And then you have a settlement period, and the buyer and the seller are agreeing on, okay, what repairs are we going to make, if any, on this house so that we can get this deal done. So the tip here is make a timeline for these repairs, whether you're the buyer or the seller, so that you have an idea of when these things are going to be finished up. And then if you're buying the house, make sure you schedule a final walkthrough of the home so you can verify all the work has been done appropriately and the way you want it to be done, so that you can go ahead and that won't slow down closing at all. So that's tip number 2, is make a timeline for your repairs and also do a final walkthrough of the house before closing. Okay, tip number 3 is to carefully review all of the loan documents. Now, generally a day before closing, you're going to get the HUD-1 or the settlement statement, and you'll be able to review all of the numbers and the charges, and review those documents very carefully. And if you have any questions, what you want to do is compare those numbers to the good faith estimate that the lender should have given you if you're buying a house. If you have any questions, make sure you get on the phone with your lender, talk to them, that you feel really good about all the numbers before you're going into closing. Because if you go into closing and you sign all the papers and the numbers aren't exactly the way you wanted them, it's too late at that point. So make sure you are carefully reviewing all the loan documents in your settlement statement before going into closing. Tip number 4 is kind of that in that same vein, where you're just we want you to make sure you contact the lender on the day before closing and even the day of closing. So the day before and the day of, just to make sure everything's good. There's not one missing piece of paper that they need, or one document, or one other piece of information. Just to verify everything's going the way it should be. And you can be working with your agent on this. Your agent can help you communicate, making sure everything is lined up and is smooth and ready to go. So when you show up at the closing table, you're just signing the papers and you're good to go. Tip number 5 is to make sure you have the funds available to close. Now, your lender probably already had you fill out a proof of funds form, or they checked your bank account statements to make sure that's all there. But to make the closing go smoothly, if you're buying a house in Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky, you want to make sure that you get those funds ready to go for closing. So that might mean going to your bank and getting the cashier's check ready, or the title company may want you to wire the funds to them. If that's the case, they'll be giving you wiring instructions on who to send it to, when to send it to, and you can get that done ahead of time. Even generally they want that 24 hours before closing. So that's the last tip, is make sure you have all of your funds available and you're filling them out to the right people. Just double check all that information so that the funds are getting to who they need to go to at the right time for closing. So okay guys, that's it. Getting the signed contract is one thing. Getting to the closing table and actually getting the deal done is another. And it can be hectic, it can be stressful, but hopefully if you follow these 5 tips, you're working with a good real estate agent, then everything's going to go smooth for you. So appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.